or wired to seek approval. From the moment we are born, we are conditioned to seek approval. As children, we look to our parents for validation. A smile from them tells us we've done something right. A frown, a stern word, or a disappointed look makes us feel like we've done something wrong. This continues into school. Grades, awards, and recognition become indicators of our worth. If we get praised, we feel valuable. If we get criticized, we feel like we've failed. And then, as we grow older, the pressure only increases. Social media amplifies this approval-seeking mindset. A post with hundreds of likes makes us feel validated, while a post that gets ignored makes us question ourselves. We start shaping our actions, our words, and even our dreams based on what will be most accepted by the people around us. But the real question is, whose approval are we really seeking? Are we shaping our lives based on our own values and beliefs, or are we living for the expectations of others? Why do we let external validation dictate our choices, our confidence, and even our sense of self-worth? This instinct to seek approval isn't entirely our fault. It's evolutionary. Thousands of years ago, being part of a group was essential for survival. If you were rejected by your tribe, you were left alone, and being alone meant danger. Your survival depended on fitting in. And even though the world has changed, our brains haven't fully adapted. That deep-rooted fear of rejection still lingers, even when there's no real threat to our existence. The problem is that today, this need for approval doesn't protect us. It limits us. Instead of making decisions based on what's right for us, we make decisions based on how they will be perceived. Instead of taking risks that could lead to growth, we hold back because we're afraid of judgment. Instead of stepping into our full potential, we stay within the boundaries of what's acceptable to others. Think about the people in your life whose opinions you fear the most. It could be colleagues at work, acquaintances on social media, distant relatives you see only at family gatherings, or even strangers who barely know you. Now ask yourself, do these people truly know you? Do they understand your struggles, your dreams, your values? If they don't, then why do their opinions hold so much weight? The truth is, most of the people whose judgment we fear are not deeply involved in our lives. They are not the ones staying up with us during hard times. They are not the ones helping us navigate our biggest challenges. They are not the ones who genuinely care about our success and well-being. Yet somehow we allow their opinions to dictate how we feel about ourselves and the choices we make. On the other hand, think about the people who truly matter, the people who love and support you unconditionally. These are the people who see you for who you really are, who know your struggles, who understand your journey. These are the people who, even when you make mistakes, stand by your side. They don't define you by your failures. They don't belittle you for trying something new. They don't criticize you for taking a different path. Instead, they encourage you, they guide you, and they remind you of your strengths when you forget them yourself. And yet, their voices often get drowned out by the noise of those who don't truly matter. We spend more time worrying about what a coworker might say about our decision to start a new project than we do appreciating the friend who encourages us to go for it. We let a negative comment from a stranger online hold more power than the endless support of someone who genuinely believes in us. We allow fleeting opinions to have a lasting impact on our self-worth while ignoring the steady voices that remind us of our true value. What's even more interesting is that the people who are quick to judge are often projecting their own fears and insecurities. Someone who is afraid to take risks will criticize you for stepping outside your comfort zone. Someone who is unhappy with their own life will try to bring you down when you chase your dreams. Someone who never had the courage to stand out will pressure you to blend in. Their judgment isn't really about you, it's about them. But those who genuinely care about you, they don't focus on tearing you down. They focus on lifting you up. They want to see you grow. They want to see you succeed. And they want to see you become the best version of yourself. Their support isn't conditional. Their encouragement isn't dependent on whether you make the right choices in the eyes of others. They don't judge you for failing because they understand that failure is part of the process. Yet despite this, we often find ourselves prioritizing the wrong voices. We let the fear of judgment from people who add no real value to our lives stop us from pursuing what truly matters. We hesitate, we second guess, and we hold ourselves back, all because we are worried about opinions that will be forgotten by next week. But in doing so, we forget the opinions that truly matter, the ones that come from those who want the best for us, no matter what. Criticism is one of the biggest reasons people hesitate to take action, speak their minds, or follow their dreams. We fear being judged, called out, or ridiculed. We assume that if someone criticizes us, it must mean we've done something wrong, that we're not good enough, that we should stop what we're doing. But what if I told you that most criticism has nothing to do with you? When people criticize, it often has more to do with their own insecurities, fears, and frustrations than with the person they are criticizing. We see this in everyday life. The coworker who constantly belittles others may feel insecure about their own abilities. The friend who dismisses your goals as unrealistic may be projecting their own fear of failure onto you. The stranger who leaves a hateful comment online may be dealing with their own dissatisfaction and using criticism as an outlet for their frustration. This is why criticism often says more about the person giving it than about the person receiving it. People who are confident, secure, and happy with their own lives don't spend their time tearing others down. They don't feel the need to mock someone else's dreams or discourage someone from taking a leap of faith. Instead, they encourage, support, and uplift. But those who are struggling internally, they project. They criticize because seeing someone else take a risk reminds them of the risks they never took. They mock someone else's progress because it highlights their own stagnation. They label someone's ambition as delusional because they once had dreams too, but gave up on them. This pattern exists everywhere. Throughout history, every great leader, entrepreneur, artist, and innovator has faced criticism. The Wright brothers were told that humans would never fly. Walt Disney was fired from a newspaper for lacking imagination. J.K. Rowling was rejected by multiple publishers before Harry Potter became a global phenomenon. The list goes on. These individuals weren't failures. They weren't unworthy. They weren't incapable. But the people who criticized them, who doubted them, rejected them, and ridiculed them, were seeing the world through their own limited beliefs. Even in our daily lives, we see this dynamic play out. Someone starts a business and others say, "That'll never work." Someone decides to switch careers and people say, "Are you sure? That's too risky." Someone begins a fitness journey and suddenly critics appear saying, "You're trying too hard." But are these comments rooted in truth, or are they coming from the fears and doubts of those who never tried? The biggest irony of criticism is that people who achieve great things often face the harshest judgment, not because they are doing something wrong, but because they are doing something different. They are stepping outside of the norm, breaking expectations, and proving that success is possible. And that makes some people uncomfortable. Because if one person can achieve greatness, it forces others to confront the fact that they too could have taken action but didn't. This is why it's so important to recognize where criticism comes from. Not all feedback is valuable. Not all opinions are worth listening to. The words of those who are afraid, bitter, or insecure should not hold more weight than the belief you have in yourself. If we allow every piece of criticism to dictate our actions, we will never move forward. We will never take risks. We will never truly live according to our own potential. Understanding that criticism is often a reflection of the critic, not the recipient, allows us to stop internalizing negativity that was never meant for us in the first place. It allows us to separate constructive feedback from projection. It allows us to stay focused on our path without being derailed by the doubts and fears of others. Every time we change who we are to fit someone else's expectations, we give away a piece of ourselves. It starts subtly. We adjust the way we speak, the way we dress, the way we express our opinions. all in an effort to be accepted. We tell ourselves it's harmless. We justify it by thinking it's just a small change. But over time, those small changes add up, and before we know it, we are no longer living as ourselves. We are living as the version of us that others want to see. Seeking approval is exhausting because it's a game you can never win. No matter what you do, someone will always have an opinion. If you play it safe, people will say you lack ambition. If you take risks, they'll call you reckless. If you work hard, they'll say you're too obsessed. If you relax, they'll say you're lazy. There is no universal standard for what is right in the eyes of others because their expectations are constantly shifting based on their own beliefs, experiences, and biases. And yet we chase approval as if it's something that can be permanently secured. We measure our worth by how many people approve of us. We filter our words to avoid offending anyone. We hesitate to make decisions without knowing how they will be perceived. We silence our real thoughts, our real passions, and our real desires because we are afraid of standing out, afraid of being judged, afraid of disappointing others. But the more we mold ourselves to fit someone else's expectations, the more we lose sight of who we truly are. We start basing our identity on what others want rather than on what we actually believe. We become performers in our own lives, constantly adjusting our actions for the audience we think is watching. The irony is that the people we are trying to impress often don't even care as much as we think they do. People are too busy worrying about their own lives to be constantly analyzing ours. Yet we give them control over our decisions, our happiness, and our self-worth. We let their opinions dictate how we live, even though their opinions are fleeting, subjective, and in many cases irrelevant to our actual growth and fulfillment. And then one day we wake up and realize that in the pursuit of approval, we have lost ourselves. We have spent years following a path we never truly wanted. We have made choices that weren't in alignment with our values. We have sacrificed dreams that once set our souls on fire, all because we were afraid of what someone else might say. When we live for approval, we become trapped in a cycle of seeking validation, of chasing acceptance, of trying to be someone we are not. It becomes impossible to truly be happy because happiness comes from authenticity. And authenticity is sacrificed the moment we start living for someone else. And what's the price of that sacrifice? Regret. The regret of knowing we never truly allowed ourselves to be who we were meant to be. The regret of realizing that we spent more time worrying about opinions than actually living. The regret of looking back and seeing all the moments we could have been bold, free, and fearless, but instead we played small because we were too afraid of standing alone. Every time we adjust ourselves for approval, we make a trade. We trade authenticity for acceptance. We trade individuality for conformity. We trade fulfillment for comfort. And the question we must ask ourselves is, how much of ourselves are we willing to give up just to please people who may not even care? Think about the people you admire most. The ones who have made a real impact on the world. Entrepreneurs who built revolutionary companies. Artists who created timeless works. Leaders who changed the course of history. Now ask yourself, did any of them achieve greatness without facing doubt, criticism, or opposition? Did any of them walk an easy, judgment-free path where everyone cheered them on from the very beginning? The answer is no. Every great leader, every visionary thinker, every person who dared to challenge the status quo faced doubt, not just from strangers, but often from their own friends, family, and colleagues. The world has a way of resisting change, and when someone dares to do something different, when they refuse to follow the conventional path, they become a target for skepticism. When Elon Musk first spoke about building electric cars and reusable rockets, people laughed. They dismissed him as unrealistic. They called his ideas impossible. When Oprah Winfrey was fired from her first television job, she was told she wasn't fit for TV. When Steve Jobs was ousted from Apple, many thought his career was over. When J.K. Rowling submitted Harry Potter to publishers, she was rejected again and again. These individuals didn't just face doubt, they were told in clear and direct ways that they wouldn't succeed. And yet, they kept going, because the truth is, if you are doing something significant, if you are stepping outside the norm and pushing beyond what is expected, people will doubt you. Not because you are incapable, but because what you are doing is unfamiliar. People find comfort in the known, and when someone challenges what they believe to be possible, their first instinct is to reject it. They say things like, "That's too risky," or "That's not how things are done," or "What if you fail?" But the ones who make a difference, the ones who lead, create, and inspire, are the ones who refuse to let doubt define them. They don't let skepticism dictate their actions. They don't let fear of judgment hold them back. They understand that doubt is part of the process, not a reason to stop. And the most fascinating thing, the same people who once doubted them, who laughed at their ideas, who told them they were wasting their time, many of those same people eventually become their supporters. The world often resists change until it becomes undeniable. The very people who once criticized will later say, "I always knew they'd succeed." But what if these leaders had listened to the doubters? What if they had believed the people who told them they weren't good enough, smart enough, talented enough? What if they had let fear of judgment stop them? The world would look very different. And this doesn't just apply to famous leaders, it applies to all of us. Every time you try something new, step outside your comfort zone, or pursue something meaningful, there will be people who doubt you. There will be voices telling you it won't work. But their doubts are not a reflection of your ability. Their doubts are a reflection of their limitations, their fears, their inability to see what's possible. Time is the one thing we can never get back. Every second that passes is gone forever. Yet, so many of us spend our days living for someone else's expectations, making decisions based on what others think, and holding ourselves back because we are afraid of judgment. But at the end of it all, when you look back on your life, whose approval will truly matter? Imagine yourself at 80 years old, reflecting on the life you've lived. Will you be proud of the choices you made? Will you feel fulfilled knowing that you followed your own path, chased your own dreams, and stayed true to yourself? Or will you be filled with regret, knowing that you spent years trying to meet expectations that were never your own? One of the greatest tragedies in life is realizing too late that you never fully lived because you were too busy worrying about what others thought. So many people reach the end of their lives and wish they had been braver. They wish they had taken more risks. They wish they had spoken their minds, pursued their passions, and ignored the voices that told them to play it safe. But by the time they realize this, there's no way to turn back the clock. We often think we have time to figure things out later. We tell ourselves that we'll start living authentically someday. Someday we'll stop caring about what others think. Someday we'll take that leap of faith. Someday we'll finally do what makes us happy. But someday is not guaranteed. Think about how much time you've already spent worrying about people's opinions, people who may not even remember the things you're stressing over. Think about the opportunities you've passed up, the experiences you've missed, and the dreams you've put on hold, all because you were afraid of being judged. Now, multiply that by another 5, 10, 20 years. Is that really how you want to spend your one and only life? Living for yourself doesn't mean ignoring other people or dismissing their feelings. It doesn't mean being selfish or refusing to take advice. It simply means that at the end of the day, the person you should be most accountable to is yourself. It means making choices that align with your values, your goals, and your happiness, not choices that exist solely to gain approval from others. Because no matter how hard you try, you will never please everyone. You could be the most kind, hardworking, and well-intentioned person in the world, and there will still be people who criticize you, misunderstand you, or disapprove of your choice. That's just the nature of life. But the good news is their opinions don't have to define you unless you let them. The only person who will be with you for every single moment of your life is you. You are the one who has to live with the decisions you make, the risks you take, and the regrets you leave behind. So why let people who won't even be around for your whole journey dictate how you live? If you want to create a life that is meaningful, fulfilling, and truly your own, you have to stop living for the expectations of others. You have to stop letting fear of judgment hold you back. You have to start making choices that reflect who you are, not who the world wants you to be. Because at the end of it all, when your story is written, the only opinion that will truly matter is your own.